Welcome to the review of the Bard's Tale construction set. The game was created by Interplay Productions and released in 1991. The game starts with this colorful and charming menu. The whole purpose of this game is actually to create other games. It's similar to Unlimited Adventures, only it was released a couple years earlier, and utilizes the same rules that the Bard's Tale engines utilized instead of Dungeons and Dragons. First thing we're doing is going in and creating an item in the item editor. It allows you to give the item a name. You can choose the various classes that can use it. You can set a price. You can set how much damage it does, which is based on dice rolls, which is charming. Makes it feel like a real role-playing game. Items can have special abilities such as poisoning, critical hit, etc. You can even put in the text that is displayed to the user when they utilize the weapon. In order to save time, I'm only going to show a little bit of each editor type. There's all kinds of item types in addition to hand weapons. You could have armor, you could have helmets, you could have ranged weapons, figurines, etc. But now we're going to go into the spell editor. You can set a 4-character code, which, if you're familiar with the Bard's Tale series, that's the unique identifier for the spell. You can set the spell points, the range in multiples of 10 feet, what type of spell this is. There's a large variety, not just attack spells, but healing, phase door, etc. You can set the area so that it hits all monsters, a single target, or a group. Even the duration, permanent, continuous, medium, etc. And of course, what is displayed to the user. So now we'll jump into the monster editor. And we'll just look at an existing monster, this being a magician. You can see the huge variety of stats here. Armor class, level, is it an illusion? What's its magic resistance? Level, incidentally, is from 0 to 20. 20 is the cap. You can set how far away they appear, how many times they move per round, their hit points, again using a dice system. They get 4 different types of attacks, which are listed there. How many attacks they get, the damage done, if they do extra damage like insanity, aging, etc. Text, the special attack if they're going to be casting a spell, or it could be physical. This allows you to give a monster a wide variety of attacks. For example, if you wanted it to be able to do like an owlbear squeeze, you could put a different type of attack in there that could still be physical, but the message will be different. Very powerful. How many can appear, how much gold they carry when you kill them, and a picture. Now the pictures are a little bit strange in this game, how they work, and it can be quite tedious, but at least at this point in the game you are allowed to see the different pictures that have been imported in. You can go down the line and see what they are. You can also import your own pictures. And now to the most complicated and difficult part of the game, which is the map editor. Here we just selected the pre-existing castle map, and there's 4 different types of dungeons it can be, which basically just affects the graphics. What level, which basically means how difficult is it. There's a chance of a wandering monster. How difficult are the wandering monsters? And of course a file name. Now you can either edit special effects or draw a map. First thing to do is to go in and view the specials or edit specials. And the reason is because these are global. They have to be created before you can use them on the actual map. At this point you get into the programming. which is steps 1 through 20. You're allowed 20 maximum events that can occur, and they all happen synchronously. So it starts at step 1, goes to step 2, etc. You could either have a do type event, which automatically happens, or you can have an if condition. Here's a list of some of the do commands. When you see a $i or $x, those are variables, which allow you to put in different values and different effects happen based on what you choose. The number of events are staggering. It's very impressive, one of the best features of the game. Unfortunately, there are some shortcomings which I'll be pointing out later. Incidentally, the up and DN in the bottom right corner of any dialogue is for paging up or down using the mouse. Now when you do choose an event which requires variables, a dialog will pop up and it'll ask you to fill in the variables, which is very handy. It's basically walking you through it. As I mentioned earlier, there's also conditions, which are basically if, then, else statements. If you're familiar at all with programming, it's just very simple if statements. So you can say if the last answer to input was this, or if the group is facing a certain direction. Let's say if it is daytime. All these if conditions allow you to program exactly what can happen based on the current situation. And what happens is once you choose one and you fill in the variable associated with the if statement, you can then click on the then. So if it's true, the then will be performed. Otherwise, the else will be performed. And you can choose any type of event that you would normally have in a do statement. Once all your events are created, you're ready to draw the actual map. Here, since we're modifying an existing one, you can see quite a few events and walls on the right side of the screen. The upper left side shows you what the user would see from a first-person point of view. The little arrow that is appearing on the right side is where you're at. It shows your direction and it shows your position. The white four-sided shapes on the right side represent special effects. If you move the pointer over the top of one, it'll give you a short description of what that event is on the left side. You can change wall types, which are basically walls, doors, secret doors, and clear. Then of course, there's different types based on the environment. You'll have trees, you'll have sand buildings, you'll have walls. You can place the doors anywhere you want. Of course, you can clear them. Same thing with events. You simply navigate to the area and you choose from your pre-created events. Remember, I had mentioned that you have to create them ahead of time, which makes it quite tedious going back and forth. You can actually place the walls and make the building structure pretty quickly. Almost all the time is taken up when you're creating your events. Creating this building only took about 20 seconds. The last menu item to talk about is the utilities. This is where you can load items, spells, and monsters, and you can save them. And basically whatever you had created in the engine now will be saved to a file, which is pretty cool. That's a nice feature. You can print the spells that you've created to a file, and remember this was created in the DOS days where you just create a text file and you could print that to a printer. So we can drop out the DOS and show you the contents of the file here. In those days you most likely had a dot matrix printer. Finally, from the utilities menu, there's a test map, which is a really cool feature. Instead of having to build the whole game to test it, you could simply put in X and Y coordinates for where you want to start, which is the guild, and test the game as though you're playing it. You're given these pre-created characters, Ed, Marge, Roger. Makes you wonder if that's the name of some of the employees of Interplay. At this point, though, the game is fully functional. We can view the characters. Their pictures are animated. You can see their equipment. Everything works. The guild works, so you can create new characters, which we're going to go ahead and do right now. You have the standard races in the Bard's Tale series. The common attributes: strength, IQ, dexterity, constitution, and luck. And the standard classes. In our case, we're going to go ahead and create a monk at this point. That's one ripped dude. He's got to be named Bruce. Bruce Lee. The game still inherits things such as being able to have parties that you can add all at once. And the game has a fantastic user manual. One of the best user manuals I've ever seen for a game. It explains everything in very specific detail, like this experience formula, or the racial starting attributes. Here you can see that dwarves are the strongest and gnomes are the smartest. Hobbits most dexterous. It shows you the saving throw that different classes need. Even shows you for monsters and illusions. Here's an example of a whole page just to kind of give you a feel of the structure and the organization of the document. I'm not going to go through the entire game because it would take forever, but I will show you some of it so that you can see how it is very similar to the Bard's Tale series. When you come across monsters, you can advance, run away, or melee, which means fight. You can attack foes, you can attack your party, defend, use an item. If you're a bard, you can use a bard song, cast spell, hide in shadows, etc. Now, this game has a lot of polishing that could have been done. For example, it always shows you the same menu items, even if you don't have those abilities. You know, that's a little bit sloppy. I kind of get the feeling that this game was going on track and it started falling behind, and the company wanted to push it out there, even though it wasn't fully polished. Which is unfortunate because it could have been an absolute masterpiece. Now that we go back to the utility menu, we can build the game. You pick a full path where you want it to go. Typically in the past it looks like they would want you to store it on a floppy disk, but now we're going to store it on the hard drive. And you choose the starting map, which is about to show you another unpolished feature of the game. So I'm picking this particular map, and it asks me for the guild coordinates. So I put some numbers in. It says no guild found on the map. Okay, then why did you allow me to choose it? You're taught that in User Interface 101. Anyway, continuing on, it asks you for the items, the spell list, the monster list. And then at the top of the screen, you wait as it gives you information. It tells you to have patience. Patience. And more patience. Hang on. Almost there. Is it done? It doesn't tell me. Well, anyway, once you drop down to DOS into the directory that you created, you can run setup and choose your graphics and sound. And then you can play the game by typing Bard Game. Present you with the same user interface as though you're coming into the construction set, although you're presented immediately into the game now, where you can create characters. But we've already been through this process, and so I'll cut it short for you. You'll run into familiar things such as the review board, where you can advance in level, you can get new spells, you can change your class, etc. You'll also find the old shop, which evidently has Garth still. He's immortal. The limitation is it only shows the first 9 items that are in the item list. And since there's pre-created ones, you have to go through and modify those if you want items to actually show up in the shop. The game has the charm of the original, where the animations are very slight and just kind of gives you a feel that the monster is alive and not just sitting there. Another place that could have been polished up in the game is the death scene. When you die, you're just thrown back to the guild and you're not even told that the whole party died. In my opinion, the Bard's Tale construction set was kind of ahead of its time. It appears that it was thrown out before it was 100% ready, because it could have used some polishing up. But overall, you could actually have a lot of fun doing this. If you can get around the tediousness of some of the event types and how you navigate the map, I bet you'd have a lot of fun creating adventures, especially if you have some buddies that you could create them for and maybe even swap back and forth. I hope you enjoyed this review, and I'll see you next time.